Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to our second part of the review of all the mercenaries in Warcry. I should have done the Order and Chaos ones earlier on today, so that should be out already if you want to look for that. But today we're doing the mercenaries for Death and Destruction. So let's just start with the Death ones. And remember, you can take all of these in any death warband. So just because a hero is Nighthaunt hero, that doesn't mean you can't take him for a Flesh Eater Court warband, for example. Okay, so let's get going. We've got quite a few Nighthaunt heroes in here, 5 I think it is, yeah. Let's have a look. The Knight of Shrouds, he deals 7.6 damage on average per action, which is pretty good, but he does cost a lot of points as well, so his damage per point value is 0.03. Although for the Nighthaunt in general, they don't do too much damage, so he might be a nice model to bring, especially since he has a pretty good healing ability, which lets him heal as many points as he was able to deal in damage against an opponent. So if he deals these like 7.6 damage on average and attacks twice, that's 15 points of damage per activation, I'm sorry. And then using that double ability will give you back 15 points of health. So the Knight of Shrouds is very survivable, and as you can see, it takes 6 activations to be killed as well. Very good value per point. So I think bringing him is very much worth it. Okay, moving on, we've got the Can Wraith. His damage is a bit lower, he's a bit cheaper, so he comes out to the same kind of damage per point value. On the average of things here, takes a bit more to be killed, but he doesn't have any great abilities, so I think he's not really worth bringing over the Knight of Shrouds. Then we've got the Lord Executioner, and again his damage is as high as the Knight of Shrouds damage is. These nice 7.6 damage, I like that. And we've got to keep in mind he's got a net ability, so that means he can stop an enemy fighter from moving altogether, which in my opinion are some of the strongest abilities in the entire game. And being able to bring that with any warband is very nice for basically all death factions. Right, and again, average damage, high survivability, as you'd expect out of a ghost. All the Nighthaunts have pretty high survivability. Then we've got the Spirit Torment, again lower damage, lower point cost, very similar to the Can Wraith basically. Did not like his ability as much, so again, probably not worth bringing over the Lord Executioner or Knight of Shrouds. Then we've got the Tomb Banshee, and I've heard people say that she did good damage, but yeah, as you can see, the maths clearly say otherwise. 3.1 damage, that's really bad. Puts you to 0.01 per point value, so bringing her is definitely not worth your points. Go for any of the other options instead. Then you've got the Lone Necromancer. I don't know why he's called Lone Necromancer, not just a Necromancer, but whatever. He's obviously theoretically part of the Legions of Nagash, but again, you can bring him anyways. He's got one ranged attack, like a magic missile. That does pretty low damage, so he's only in the like lesser damage per point value. Again, takes a lot of effort to kill him, so he's fine there. But yeah, I don't think he's that great, so I'd probably skip him as well. Then we've got the White King, 6 damage again, in the medium ballpark of damage. Alright, activations to be killed, all of these are fine, but These guys are all 5 activations to be killed, where the ghosts were 6. So still a bit worse than some of the ghost options, in my opinion. And then we've got Aberrant Ghoul King. His damage is pretty good, and he's cheaper than the Knight of Shrouds or Lord Executioner are. So his damage per point value is actually the best out of all of these. So if you're just looking to get an ally that can dish out some very good damage per point value, I think this is the one you might want to go for. Right, so let's get into the Destruction Fighters right away. These are our mercenaries for Destruction. Starting off, we've got the Iron Jaws with the Mega Boss, the War Chanter, and the Weird Knob Shaman. The Mega Boss does a whopping 10.1 points of damage. That is insanely high. So that's, I think, might be one of the highest damage I've seen overall. Crazy damage. What he's also got going for him. Oh wow! I just figured I didn't actually mark these things up. Okay, that's a bit embarrassing. I'm sorry. Anyways, what I was about to say. So he's got an ability, a quad ability actually, that lets him make that it's called the Big War. So all units within 9 inches of him get to increase their movement value by the value of that ability. So if you've got a quad of, let's say, force, for example, all of your fighters in 9 inches can move 4 inches more for every activation. So for every action, actually. So especially for Iron Jaws, who are incredibly slow, they've got 3 movement across the board. This one might be insanely good, especially considering his damage per point value is that good. It takes 9 activations to take him down by like a strong fighter like the one I've used here. So his point value per survivability is also very high. Seeing 0.04 here is very rare, keep in mind. So in most warbands you won't see that. So yeah, the Mega Boss quite strong. We've got the War Chanter, bit lower damage, but still quite good. 7.6 is still up there. Yeah, and he's lower in point cost, so his damage per point value is also good. He's just as tough to take down as the Mega Boss is. So again, you're getting amazing point value for this one. However, his ability is a bit worse than the than the Mega Bosses. So I think the Mega Boss is probably the better pick. Then we've got the Weird Knob Shaman. He has that just box standard ranged magic ability, the 2 attack, strength 3, 3/6 damage, which ends up giving him only 3.1 damage on average, making him one of the few allies in this list that are pretty bad. So he's very survivable, but why go for him if you could go for any of the other guys? Then we've got the Savage Big Boss. Obviously, a Savage Orc does very good damage. Also has the Big War ability, so he's also able to increase the movement of all fighters by quite a bit. So yeah, good damage per point value, a little bit less survivability than the other guy, but he's cheaper as well. So I think the Savage Big Boss, if you're looking to get this big war and want to save on points, he's still very good. We've got the Fungoid Cave Shaman, same ranged missile attack, which therefore means he's pretty bad in this. less activations to be killed, however lower in points, so his points per value are still quite nice. Then we get to the only cheap allies. So the Boggle Eye, the Shadowmancer, the Brugit, and the Spiker are all very cheap. They are less than 100 points, I think 85 each. And those are the only allies that are below 100 points. The Boggle Eye, for example, he only deals 2.6 damage, so his damage isn't great, but as I said, he's also very cheap. And he has a net ability, so an ability that allows him to lock players down. As I've just explained, this is a very strong ability. You don't really need it for Gloomspite Gits because they've got the stabber with the net, but getting this for an Iron Jaws warband or an what's it called? Sorry, for Ogres or something is quite nice. So I think the Boggle Eye will be a nice thing to include in many warbands. Even though his survivability obviously is not great, he doesn't have that many wounds, but in terms of points value, he's still doing very good, and his damage is even decent as well, although I don't think dealing damage is what you are that concerned about if you're playing Iron Jaws or Ogres. You do have models that can deal a lot of damage, so you don't necessarily need him to do that. We've got the Scaremonger, slightly better damage, also pretty cheap, so the damage per point value again is quite good. Also his survivability is insane again. For activations to be killed at low point values is just great. So yeah, the Scaremonger isn't bad, but his ability is quite bad, so I just don't know if you need to bring him and if he really adds that much to your warband. Similar things go honestly for the Shadowmancer, the Brugit, and the Spiker. All of their abilities are a bit meh. The damage is pretty low. It's kind of okay considering how cheap they are. But yeah, I don't know why you would need to bring them. I guess if you have 85 points left in a warband and can't find anything else to bring, you might as well bring one of these, but other than that, I don't think they are that good. And now looking at the Lulu Boss. The Lulu Boss might just be one of my favorite allies in general. Not only does his model look really cool with the yellow moon mask on his face, but he does pretty good damage. Isn't that expensive, so you can see his point value. In terms of point value, he's in the green brackets in both. But he also has a buff that is insanely good. He buffs all allies around him to give them extra attacks for the value of the ability. So I think it's a quad, but the quad gives then all allies the value of that ability in terms of extra attacks. So let's say you've got a Squig Hopper who's normally on 5 attacks, and you pop this abilities. Let's say you've got a quad of force. Your Squig Hopper will be on 9 attacks suddenly. Equally with Iron Jaws, some of the big chopper weapons and stuff, they only have 3 attacks. If you can buff those to more than double that, you're going to achieve some insanely high damage outputs. Like, it's off the charts. So I think the Lulu Boss might be one of the best includes in many of the warbands if you really want to, if you're concerned about your damage and you really want to buff your damage. I think he's very, very nice for that. So let me know what kinds of guys you like to take. I'm sure some of you have experimented a lot. I haven't actually used any of these yet because I don't own any warbands, any destruction warbands. So I can only tell you from my experience with warband which abilities have been great with other warbands, and I've had more than 50 games in Warcry already, so I dare say I know what I'm talking about a bit. And yeah, numbers don't lie, so you can see these guys are just amazing value for their points, and that's a safe bet. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed. Don't want to make this too long, and hopefully see you next time.